Take His Whistle podcast is back. This is another college football episode. It is rivalry week this week, all week long. There's great games, great matchups, some really good history involved. We got a lot of them to go over and cover for everybody. So just sit back, relax, or just get in your grind, really, and stay tuned.
Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins! Oh my God! Anderson for the win! Right back! Auburn's gonna win the football game!
Let's it fly.
Oh my goodness! Touchdown LSU! They win the game!
Back today, so I got time to be tripping and writing no love song. Yeah, writing no love song. We all experience love loss.
Take His Whistle is back. This is college episode. Who knows what it is, but we got a good one. It is rivalry week. My name is Parker. I'm one of your co-hosts. Always with me is my good friend Josh.
What's up, everybody?
And as you can see, we have our first ever guest today. We got our first guest. We actually got a couple new things. We got a face cam for the first time.
Yes, sir.
Didn't really think this was going to happen here this soon, but we were making it happen. Face cam, and we are with one of our other really good friends, the first ever guest on Take His Whistle. His name is Caleb.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hope y'all doing good. Had a good Thanksgiving.
And Caleb is a really big Louisville fan here with us. He's a diehard Louisville fan, and obviously, like I said, it's rivalry week, so we obviously Kentucky, Louisville are playing each other, and so we thought it would be the best time to have a really big Louisville fan. Has a little bit different just views and opinions than another Louisville fan, Josh. So we're kind of see what he has to say, where his mind's at with everything, and just talk a little football. Not even just Louisville, Kentucky. I think he's here to stay for the entire thing, and just his opinion on all of college football this year and going into this week and the playoffs and all that.
Yeah, I needed some backup for today, so I had to go and pull Caleb for this one. So hopefully he's ready.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I'm the outmanned one here.
But all right, gentlemen. So let's go ahead and get it started with the Kentucky Louisville game because it's going to take up a majority of this episode, I'm sure. Let's go ahead and start with you, Parker, because I know that you were telling me that you had a lot of stuff that you wanted to talk about Kentucky coming into this game, their mindset, whatever it may be. So why don't you go ahead and start, and then you can go ahead and throw it back to us. And
Yeah. I mean, so really my main thing is I just want to address Kentucky, not just necessarily this game, but just Kentucky as a whole. Because obviously last week we fell to a South Carolina team that is fighting to be bowl eligible. They had a below losing record. They were 4-6 going into the game. And just I don't necessarily have too many bad things to say about that game. We looked good. Our defense was extremely good. Our offense moved the ball well until we got into the red zone, and that's whenever we just couldn't score the ball. And that's at the end of the day, that's what was the main thing on why we lost that game, was because we just necessarily couldn't get into the end zone, and we were preventing them to get into the end zone until that last touchdown. So I don't have too many bad things to say about it, but what I do want to address is after the game, obviously this is a disappointing season for Kentucky, and the first thing is everybody wants Stoops gone. They want him gone. Here's my thing. And this is really just to Kentucky fans that are listening and want someone else's take on it. That's not a overboard Kentucky fan. We will never, and I mean never, be on the level of Alabama or, I mean, even Georgia. We might have really good seasons, and like we were a few years ago when we got up into the top 10, but as far as year in and year out being talked about as one of the best in college football, we're a basketball school. We are talked about as one of the best in basketball every single year. That's not the case for football. And the best way I can use an example is something like Alabama football, or just Alabama sports in general. They're a really good football program, but they are, and as far as basketball goes, like last year, they were the number 1 overall seed in basketball. Look 3-4 years ago, before that, Alabama was fighting to have 10 wins on the year, So basketball is not their strong suit, obviously. Now, every once in a while, you'll have good years, but never expect Alabama to be a powerhouse year in and year out in basketball. Ohio State's another one. Ohio State basketball team, they have a few good years every once in a while, but they're a football school. Kentucky is a basketball school. And then you do have schools that are somewhat in the middle of that pack. I think Tennessee is a good median. They are fairly good in basketball and then fairly good in football. And I think the way that Louisville is looking at it is Louisville is trying to transition, not necessarily to be a football or a basketball school, but have that good median in the middle. You know what I mean? Like where you are very competitive every year in both sports. Obviously, Louisville was a basketball school, but obviously with everything that's gone on and stuff like that, it's that's a whole nother story. Yeah, Josh.
I was just gonna say it's interesting because like in the early 2000s, the early 2000s, kind of like getting into like I'm gonna go ahead and say it, the 2013 season. Like when you say like perfect median for both, I think like Louisville basketball and football in 2013 was like the perfect, like, okay, they're really good at both because they won the Sugar Bowl in football and then they won the national championship in basketball. But other than that year, at least in my opinion, Louisville has kind of always been, they're okay at both, but they might just be slightly more better in one or the other. But they've always been competitive in both, at least in my opinion, and from my time as being a Louisville fan.
2013 was really when it all kind of came together. It wasn't just football and men's basketball. People forget the women's basketball team went to the Final Four. They went to the championship game. The baseball team went to Omaha. So it's not just the men winning the NCAA championship and the football team winning the Sugar Bowl. There's a lot of stuff that went into it. And Parker, I kind of wanted to touch on what you're saying about, Alabama was scrapping for 10 years, a few years ago. Now they're number one overall seed in the tournament last year. I think that just goes to show you how far a good hire like Nate Oates is to a program that really needs it.
Yeah,
like Mark
I understand.
You go ahead. Oh, I was going to say Mark Stoops he's definitely taken Kentucky to newer heights that they've never been to as a program. But I kind of feel like he's not really going to get them over the hump because he doesn't win the big games.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So everybody wants Stoops gone. Or, well, not everybody, but I feel like collectively as Kentucky fan base, they want Stoops gone. There is not what Stoops has done alone over the past, let's just say 10 years. Now, obviously, it doesn't span for 10 years, but let's just say 10 years. What Stoops has done for the University of Kentucky is the greatest coaching job we have ever seen in the history of our program. 100%. 100%. He's got the most wins, best winning percentage as well. I mean, there is not another coach that you are going to get, and let's just say we fired Mark Stoops after this year. There's not another coach right now that is going to put Kentucky over the hump, that is going to get them to be better year in and year out over Georgia or over Tennessee. Florida's in a down going downhill right now, but Florida, let's just say Florida's more of they're historically a much more successful team than us. We're not going to be better than those teams. There's not a coach out there that's going to do that. So why get rid of Stoops? Why be so trigger happy with getting rid of Stoops when he has done something that no other coach has ever done for our program?
Well, I mean, I get that, but it is Kentucky. Kentucky isn't a historically very, very good football program, but I definitely disagree on the part that there's not a coach that would come to Kentucky, because Mark Stoops, he kind of did what Satterfield did, but on a higher level, where he found a place that was kind of in a hole. We had just went 2-10. Satterfield came in, and he brought us up to a perpetual 7-5, 8-4 program. I think Stoops has done the same thing. Obviously, Stoops has 2 10-win seasons under his belt. But, I mean, if I can just list off a few stats right here. Since Mark Stoops has been at Kentucky, he's 72-64. When he's playing against teams that are over 500, he is 18-52, which is a 25% win percentage. Against teams that have 9+ wins, he's 6-31, which is a 16% win percentage. Teams with 10+ wins, he's 2-21, which is an 8% win percentage. And teams with less than a 500% win percentage, he's 40-9. Then in over FCS schools too. So it kind of seems like they beat up on, at least since Stoops has been there, Kentucky has the talent to beat the big schools. They can beat Tennessee every year. They can beat Florida every year, which they've done here recently. They can knock off Alabama every once in a while. They can, I mean, for the past 4 years, they've been playing Georgia very close. You know, if Kentucky has a few more things go their way, they can knock off those big schools. But the issue Kentucky fans see, in my opinion, is that it just hasn't happened. So I feel like a lot of them, when they say that they want to fire Stoops, it's because they just don't feel like kind of delaying the inevitable, if you know what I mean.
And so to that, we have, besides this year was a disappointing season. But every year we continuously had a better and better record. We started to plateau a little bit, and now we're going down. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, Josh, I know you're in the middle of watching it, and Caleb, I suggest you watch it. I just finished watching a documentary called Swamp Kings. It's about the Florida Gators with Tim Tebow and all that stuff. Caleb, I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So they were a very mid-level SEC program for multiple years. They were just average, run-of-the-mill, where you could say Kentucky's at right now. Because of some key players and maybe a coach, they were able to become one of the best programs in college football for 1 year. The following year after that, they had an extremely disappointing season. Disappointing. Same coach, same players, but a very disappointing season. The year after that, they were right back up in with the highest of the high. And so I see something like that. And I look at this year's Kentucky team, who has had a disappointing season, and everybody is so fast to be like, everybody, we need a clear ship. We need to have a fire sale. Everybody's gone. When maybe it's obviously Devin Leary is playing dog shit. He was not when we got him, he was not going to play that way. He was not supposed to play that way. We did not expect him to. Whether it's the lingering shoulder injury that he suffered last year, or whether he's just not fitting into our system, like someone like Will Levis did last year or the past 2 years. Who knows what the problem is? But obviously, Devin Leary was not the answer, and he is not the answer. He's just not getting the job done. But again, I am not so fast to be like, you know what? One bad season, ship him off. He's gone. Stoops is gone. It's a blow it all up. Restart. When we really have seen improvement every single year.
Yeah, it's a very interesting and like tricky situation with Stoops, because when he first came in, obviously, he didn't immediately turn Kentucky around into a competitor, but 3-4 years in, and he's got him going 10-2 back-to-back years with obviously that Josh Allen and Benny Snell team. I mean, so we've seen the levels that they can get to. Now, the thing is, though, and I think both of you guys have kind of said it already, but like, is that the ceiling for Mark Stoops as a coach? Is if he has players of that level, of NFL level talent, is 10-2 and a very good bowl game like Caleb was saying, is there no next step up to the big times? Which, well, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Right now, clearly, nobody can beat Georgia. It has not been done in 2 years. Nobody has been able to beat Georgia. Yeah. So you can't say that he hasn't got over the hump, because nobody has gotten over the hump. There hasn't been a team to do it. So this year, we also played a very good and another team that's in the playoff hunt, Alabama, who very few teams has been able to do. And that's just another thing. Like, we have beaten our rivals. We have practically owned Florida. for the past 3-4 years now. Tennessee is a different story. We really haven't beat Tennessee on a consistent basis, but we have a few wins in there over Tennessee. Those are historically really, really good football programs. Just because over the last 10 years, we have yet to beat Alabama. We have yet to beat Georgia. I mean, not many other schools have. I mean, they are the cream of the crop when it comes to college football. Nobody, even if Kentucky is the best version of Kentucky, we are still not expected to beat Georgia. Regardless, we may never be able to be projected to beat Alabama. And going back to that Florida games, like even when they play, or the Florida series, when Florida played Alabama, back with Tim Tebow and stuff like that, they were not projected to beat Alabama. Alabama was supposed to dominate them. Florida was heavy underdogs. And so, I mean, yes, it can be done. Kentucky can beat Georgia. They can beat Alabama. They can beat Tennessee. But not yet. And I think that just over time and continuously getting better and improving and just recruiting, transfers, all of that stuff is going to eventually help us out. And who knows? I think there is no limit to how good we could be.
Yeah, which now is the perfect time for that type of build-up, too, because with NIL and the transfer portal, you see players coming in from these better SEC schools, better Big Ten schools. You see them transferring out all the time because they're not getting playing time, whatever it may be. And with NIL, we've already seen it with Louisville, where flipping players that should realistically be going somewhere else, but they're coming here because of the NIL money is so good. We've already seen it with Louisville last year with all the recruits we got and all the transfers we got. And on that point, there's nothing saying that Kentucky can't do the same thing. We're already seeing it with Kentucky. Kentucky has a great 2024 recruiting class so far, and I'm sure it'll get better.
So that's another thing. I think that if Stoops is gone, if he is starting to walk the plank, his job's in jeopardy. I don't think it's this year to completely just abandon him. Me personally, Devin Leary can come back for another year. He can, if he really wants to. I say bring him back. I will be the only Kentucky fan in the world to say bring Devin Leary back. The reasoning, because we have a 4-star quarterback coming in, Cutter Boyle. He's coming in. The year after that, we have another 4-star quarterback coming in Stone Saunders. Both of them have committed, and they are extremely excited to play for Kentucky. Instead of throwing in a brand new quarterback that's probably only going to be there for a year before someone like Cutter or Saunders or Stone comes in and hopefully takes over the program, have Devin Leary come back and have someone like Cutter Boyle kind of be mentored, maybe come in a little bit, play a little bit, but mainly just get comfortable with the system. And like you said, we have a great recruiting class coming in overall. We got those twin linebackers, both already committed. And I'm excited for next year. I'll tell you that much. I am extremely excited to see what we look like, and not just next year, but the next 4 years while we have this recruiting class. I think we let it ride. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's kind of what's hurt UK fans as a whole was all the hype this offseason.
Oh.
Well, it's not the not patient thing. It's just, we've got the best wide receiver core in college football this year. Devin Leary's amazing. He's coming in this year. And I was like, Devin Leary was hurt almost his whole collegiate career when he was at NC State. I mean, he missed more games than he ever played. He's injury prone. And I really did think that Dane Key and Robinson and all those guys were going to be crucial for UK this year, but they're dropping passes. They're fumbling the ball. The reason you all lost to South Carolina last week was turnovers. You had that interception in the red zone for Devin Leary, and then Dane Key fumbled that ball. They didn't give Ray Davis enough touches. I think it's more of a personnel issue than anything. I think it's coaching over anything else, honestly.
Devin Leary, he if you look it up, he set so many records for NC State. Like, he was supposed to be the real deal. And I necessarily wouldn't say it's coaching, like just bad coaching, because we saw what Will Levis did, and not his first year, not his second year because we didn't have Liam Cohen. The first year when we did have Liam Cohen as our offensive coordinator, that offense was so explosive, was so good. I think that they might have mismanaged Devin Leary, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad coaching. I just don't think Devin Leary fits into our system as well as someone like Will Levis did. I think Liam Cohen tried to use that same system and really just because how successful it was the 1 year that he was there. I mean, Will Levis at one point in the season was a Heisman candidate. Obviously, he wasn't. He fell off. He wasn't even a candidate, but at one point he was. I just think that we're just mismanaging Devin Leary.
Yeah,
well, I think if you look at the two offenses, it's a little bit different. It's way more pass heavy now than it was when Will Levis was there. There's only one school in the nation that runs the ball less than Kentucky, and that's WKU by 1/10. It's super pass heavy.
Is it really?
You need a very balanced offense to get a player like Devin Leary going. You get the run pass option going, you get some play action going once you get the run opened up. But
it doesn't help that our offensive line sucks.
Yeah. It's a lot of bad things coming together to create the perfect storm for Kentucky to have a disappointing season, which is unfortunate. But that's why we play the game.
Which we've seen with Kentucky, by the way. Like at the beginning of the season, we saw you guys running the ball for the majority of the time, which is what Caleb was referring to there. You guys run the ball a ton. But now in the past 3 games, we've seen you guys passing the ball a ton, and we've seen what Devin Leary has been able to do with that many attempts. I mean, he's been passing the ball a pretty. I mean, you guys have been passing more than running the past 3 games, I'd say, and we've seen it in his yardage that he's getting in these games. I mean, he's passing the ball, exceptionally good. I mean, I don't know if you guys personally would say that it's an elite performances, but he's passing good. He is, even with all the receiver drops and all the other struggles. But at the same time, we're seeing the more passing, we're seeing way less running. So there's no balance there. And I know Kentucky fans are upset, and I know that players are upset because they're like, why are we abandoning one part of the game and going to another part of the game instead of just balancing it together? Because if they balanced it together, it would just be a far better team than what we're seeing right now.
Agreed. And that's another thing. I necessarily, until the South Carolina loss this past week, none of our 4 losses were bad losses by any means. We were not
at all.
We were not supposed to beat Georgia. We were not supposed to beat Alabama. That's 2. Tennessee was a wash game. They said we were pretty evenly matched. We obviously our offense looked amazing that game. It was just our defense struggled.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri, at the time, we were supposed to win that game, but nobody really knew how good Missouri was. Now Missouri is above Louisville in the playoff rankings. Which I don't agree with, but that's just how it is.
Which, by the way, you guys could have beaten Missouri. You guys had a very good chance of beating them.
We had a great first half.
Just had a terrible fourth quarter fumble.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just the whole second half we struggled. But again, nobody knew how good Missouri is. Now looking at hindsight, Missouri is one of the best teams in the nation. So that all 4 of those losses are combined top 15 losses. Those are, if you lose to a top 15 school, that's not a bad loss, regardless.
And but the thing hurt me. Oh, you're still gone. I'm sorry. My fault.
No, you're good.
My fault. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I was just gonna say there's no bad losses, but there's also not any good wins. I don't think UAK's beaten a single team this year that's bowl eligible right now. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think there's a single team above 500 that UAK's beat either. So there's not a single loss except for South Carolina that you could say is bad, but South Carolina still has a chance to be bowl eligible if they beat Clemson. So that could also not go down as a bad loss. That could just be a loss against a team that played better that night, But there's just not any key wins.
If they beat Florida State, they would also be bowl eligible.
Yes,
I don't think it's going to happen, but
they won't. Hey, that's why we play the game. Crazy things happen in rivalry week. UAK has a very good chance to beat us this week too, so it happens. That's just the parody of the game. That's why we play it. but there's not any key like marquee wins for UK this year. I would say Florida's the best win just because they dominated from first whistle to last whistle. I mean, Ray Davis had 250 something yards in the first half. That's insane. So we have seen throughout the season what Kentucky's capable of. It's just consistency and getting all the pieces to go together at the same exact time is what's been the issue.
And I'll be honest, like I haven't heard any reports about it, but I genuinely would not be surprised if tomorrow the game starts and Ray Davis isn't even in uniform. Josh, I know you saw what he was posting about on Twitter. He was not happy at all. He was just not happy with the system, not happy with the play calls and everything like that. And rightfully so. I mean, he is maybe the best running back in the SEC, potentially. And
I think he is.
Yeah, I mean there are some
very good case for it. Very good case for it. Mizzou's running back is probably up there though, or actually it might be Mizzou's QB that I'm thinking of. I don't know.
Tennessee's running back was up there as well. Is up there as well. Tennessee's got they got two running backs. That's really good. They have a really good dual threat. But still, he's one of the best. He's one of the best running backs. And when you have a talent like that, especially in the SEC, if you're just talking about, he's the best running back on Kentucky, or he's the best running back in the state, right? That's one thing. But when you're saying he's the best running back in the SEC is the closest thing to a professional conference that we will get. And you have a running back like that, and we're just not utilizing him. So I would honestly not be surprised if Ray Davis does not play tomorrow.
Which I'm just going to say real quick, I think Caleb has something that he wants to say, and then after that I do want to talk some statistics, and then I want to see where we're at as far as how Louisville can win and how Kentucky can win. But Caleb, go ahead.
I was just going to say the SEC's kind of been down this year, which is very strange because I know SEC's been very down this year. Their best out-of-conference win is against a Tulane team. No. They've been dominated by out-of-conference teams all season. ACC is one. I think ACC's gone 5-2 against the SEC this year. Just completely dominated them. Texas beat Bama.
Mississippi State.
They're not playing good out of conference. The SEC is playing good out of conference.
Yeah, but if we're saying like
rolled over all year.
Why would we play out of conference when we're playing the best teams week in and week out? Not just Kentucky, but the SEC in general.
The best teams are playing week in But the best teams are playing week in and week out are getting dominated by teams from other leagues that aren't considered the best teams week in and week out. That's all I'm saying. Usually the SEC dominates college football.
I know you said Tennessee and Alabama, right? I know Tennessee beat Alabama, which Tennessee is a SEC school, technically. Not this year, but they technically are.
I was talking about the Tulane win. That's probably the best out of conference win. I think that was it either Mississippi State or A&M. Let me look at it real quick.
They beat Tulane or Tulane beat them?
Yes, SEC team beat Tulane.
Okay, what are some other conference or other games that SEC teams lost?
It was Ole Miss, I'm pretty sure, by the way.
Well, Ole Miss. That was Ole Miss I was thinking of.
Because there are some really bad SEC
I can't think of any
teams.
other key.
So you got one?
I would say
LSU got dominated by Florida State. Alabama got dominated by Texas. Well, not dominated, but they lost to Texas. There's been
Florida State's undefeated.
There's just been yeah.
So what's your point?
Texas is very good too. I'm just saying, out of conference, the SEC has been destroyed by other conferences.
Two matchups. So they're just 0-2 against really good teams. I'm not saying that Alabama or the SEC
I don't have all the wins pulled up this year, but the SEC I think is just in week one alone. Miami beat Texas A&M. Florida State destroyed LSU. Yeah, but at the time we didn't know that. I'm just talking SEC in general. I think the ACC this year is 4-1 against the SEC. I'm trying to remember what all games those were.
If you want to look them up real quick,
the SEC hasn't played good.
I just want to say real quick. In my opinion, what it is the top of the SEC is still the elite of the elite. I mean, we still see Georgia, Alabama. Well, all right. Let me rephrase it. The top of the SEC this year is the top of the nation. You got Mizzou, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss is up there. Whoever's at the top of the SEC is at the top of. We see most of them at the top of the rankings, and they tend to back it up pretty well, whether it's, them playing other SEC schools or if it's them playing barely any out of conference, whatever it may be. But I feel like when Caleb says that, what I see is that when I look at the division in the SEC, the top is very blatantly good and the bottom is very clearly the bottom. Whereas what we've seen in the past, it's been obviously the past couple years, it's been Georgia and Alabama, but below them, it's been more competitive throughout the rest of the teams. Whereas this year, it's just these guys and then everyone else. And then, everyone else in the nation in between there.
So
nobody's touching Georgia and Alabama.
Let me ask you this, Caleb. If this Louisville team this year was in the SEC, let's say if Louisville had Kentucky's schedule this year, what would your odds be?
I'd say they'd probably win. We wouldn't win. We wouldn't have the same record we do right now, but we'd probably win.
Like how many losses?
Probably
how many losses?
9 games. Three
9
or 4
games. So
maybe.
what is that? 3 or 4? If like so I'm guessing 2 of those losses would, because we played Georgia and Alabama this year. I'm guessing those were your 2 losses, right?
Yes.
And who else do you think we would lose to? Are you not we? But
I think Louisville would beat Tennessee. I think Missouri's a toss-up, but I think everything else on the schedule's a win. Honestly,
okay.
I do.
And so minus the 2 losses, you think that you guys lose to Missouri, beat Tennessee, beat South Carolina, correct?
100%.
Okay, so
well, I think Missouri's a toss-up.
So that alone proves my point. The SEC is elite, and they are the best Power 5 conference without a question, without a doubt. They are the best Power 5 conference.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you say that they get dog walked whenever they go out, it's because there are other good teams. There are other good schools that play in other conferences, right? Texas, Florida State, Louisville. They're all really good teams. So just because off one loss means that these teams aren't good?
It wasn't one, though. Florida State dominated LSU. North Carolina dominated South Carolina.
So I'm saying Alabama lost to Texas. That means that Alabama is just worse than Texas? Like, if Alabama and Texas
I was just talking
about
the SEC as a whole. Oh, if Alabama and Texas played again right now, it would be a much better game than it was before.
Alabama would
100%. I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Really? Especially the way Milroe's playing right now?
You're right. I forgot about Milroe. Alabama probably would win if Milroe's playing the way that he was.
Milroe's playing out of his mind right now. Yeah, and Quinn Ewers, I don't know if he's still hurt, but from the last thing I heard, Quinn Ewers was hurt. So Alabama would probably walk Texas if they played again.
At the end of the day, Parker, all I was saying is that when the SEC has gone out of conference this season, it has been a lot different than the way it has been other seasons. Like, you got Florida State, LSU, North Carolina beating South Carolina, Wake Forest beating Vanderbilt, Miami beating A&M, Texas beating Alabama. Usually the SEC schools, they are all strong. Even like the Vanderbilt to the SEC. Well, even like mid-level teams in the SEC, when they play against some top-level teams in other conferences in the ACC or the Big Ten, they destroy them. They dog walk them. Just because week in and week out of playing other SEC teams, it makes you tougher. It makes you better. But this year, there's been, I feel like, a major drop-off between Georgia and Alabama and Missouri, and then everybody else. When typically they're all strong at some level. You know,
I'll put Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is
tier
good
2.
too.
I'd put Georgia, Alabama tier 1, but then for tier 2, I'd put Missouri, Ole Miss, potentially even Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
just to be ranked at all.
Just to add to, he said he doesn't think Tennessee should be ranked.
I don't think Louisville should be ranked.
To kind of like add to the to the point of like of the conferences and the differences. I mean, I've seen reports saying that like Florida has a real chance of beating Florida State. Now, I know Florida State lost Jordan Travis, but even before then, a lot of people were saying that this is going to be their hardest game just because Florida's an SEC school. So I guess if you want to add that to your argument, just the sole fact that people are saying that's going to be their hardest game just because they're going up against an SEC opponent, then you can. But when I look at it, Florida State dog walked LSU earlier in the year, and I know it was the first game of the season, so people were kind of like hesitant to, really say much about that game, especially with what LSU has done since then. It's really just been the Jaden Daniels show, and then that's it. Because their defense is horrible. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
But
there's a big difference between teams in the beginning of the season and later in the season. Like we were saying with
Yeah.
Alabama, they lost to Texas early on. Milroe started playing really good. Now I think, like you said, if they play Texas now, they probably beat them. There's a big difference between teams in the beginning and the end of the season. We've seen that with Missouri. Although Missouri, we didn't really know what they were going to be. Now they're moving like a well-oiled machine, barring the Florida game, where they had to have that 2-minute drive at the end of the game to win.
I mean, even then, their offense was great. It was just that, and I was when because that was a game I went to, and I was talking to some Missouri fans because I was just sitting next to them, and they even said they would be the first to tell you, like, our offense is amazing. It's just our defense can give up 21 points in 2 minutes. Like that is our weakness. Our defense is terrible. And so I even in that Florida game, we saw that their offense was still moving the ball like none other. It was just their defense is struggles heavy.
Yeah. All right. So to move backwards a little bit, let's go over some stats for the game that you guys might have researched. I know I have one personally up on my screen right now that I think is pretty important because of personal conversations I've had with the two of you. And then I want to hear, obviously I'll give mine too, but I want to hear what you guys think of how Kentucky can win the game and how Louisville can win the game. But yeah, so whichever one of you wants to start, the floor is yours.
Doesn't matter.
You can go ahead, Parker.
Go ahead. Oh.
I'll go ahead first. That's fine. I'll go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
This game is winnable for Kentucky, but I think it's going to take them. We have seen what they're capable of. I spoke on this earlier this episode. We just have to see them put it all together. Devin Leary has to come out and hit his targets. He's been very inconsistent this season. His receivers need to hold on to the ball. Don't drop passes. Don't fumble the ball. They need to get the run going so they can get some RPOs going, some play action going, because that really helps the quarterback's confidence in his ability when he doesn't have the ball in his hand every single play and everything is not on his shoulders. I mean, Ray Davis is the best running back in the SEC, in my opinion. I just said that. So why wouldn't you hand the ball off to him more? I know Mark Stoops spoke this weekend about wanting to play quicker as an offense. They said they're going to work on that in the offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if what if they got to lose? They're probably going to try to do some crazy shit against us this week, honestly. They will. But the main thing for Kentucky and Louisville in this matchup is going to be in the trenches. Deion Walker has to have a monster of a game to beat us. Kentucky has to stop the run. If Kentucky does not stop the run, we are going to destroy them. Because if Louisville gets the run going, Jack Plummer, I think he's got 16 or 17 touchdown passes this year. I think on like 14 or 15 of them, they've all been on play action plays. So if Louisville gets a play action going with Jack Plummer, and like last week we saw the tight ends do well in Miami, if the tight ends get going as well, which is something we haven't gone to a lot this year, we will be able to do whatever we want with UK's defense, who has not been very good this year. I think the key matchup is going to be Kentucky's offense versus Louisville's defense, because I think Louisville's defense will do just fine against Kentucky's defense.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And if you like, I've said it for weeks now. I have praised Louisville on how good your all's O-line is. The reason why your run game is so good is just because how unstoppable or how just of a brick wall your all's O-line is. Nobody's getting through. And so yeah, I
we didn't give up a
agree.
sack last week at all to Miami.
Yeah. So I agree with you as far as that point. As far as Kentucky, now, if you ask me, I don't have a lot of confidence in this game. I don't. I think that it could be a pretty ugly one for Big Blue. But if we are able to win, it's because we literally have nothing to lose, and Louisville has everything to lose. This game means so much for Louisville, not only just because it's the rivalry, but because your playoff. If for whatever chance Louisville does have to make the college football playoffs, even though it is a stretch, or even to make a New Year's Six bowl, it's gonna depend on this Kentucky game. If you guys blow this game, especially if you for whatever reason got murdered, you guys would all of that would be gone just like that. Even if you won the ACC championship, and so Louisville has everything to lose. Kentucky has absolutely nothing to lose. We have a bowl game, and it's not going to change if we win nor lose. So I think that could also be a factor. Like because we've seen it a few times with Louisville. They have struggled against lesser opponents. Virginia was it 2 weeks ago? Miami this past week. Those were both, and even though I know Miami was at Miami, and that's always a really hard place to play, and Miami is a historically good program, but it just seems that compared to the games that you guys get hyped for, like the Notre Dame game, the Duke game, honestly the Virginia Tech game, because at the time I think Virginia Tech only had one ACC loss, so like that was still another really big game, and you guys go out and you guys dominate, you know what I mean? And Kentucky, which is a big name, is a really big name, and it's a rivalry game, could mean something, but at the same time, there's not much on as far as who has the better season, who is a better team, because clearly it's Louisville. And like Virginia, clearly Louisville's better than Virginia, and Virginia gave you guys everything you guys wanted. So I think that is honestly the only way that Kentucky wins, is that we honestly have the psychological aspect of the game down that Louisville doesn't.
Yeah, so you guys kind of touched on everything, to be honest, but there is a specific stat that I want to mention, mainly because, again, I've kind of talked to both of you individually about this, but a big struggle for Kentucky's offense that we've seen in the past few weeks has been their red zone offense. They can move down the field, they can get into the red zone, but once they get into the red zone, it's almost like they can't really do anything. They can't produce any points. We saw it against South Carolina, and we saw it weeks before the South Carolina game. I mean, I'm blanking on the order of y'all's games, to be honest, but we've seen it. You guys have seen it. So right here on my screen, I have red zone defense. Louisville ranks number 2 in red zone defense. If Kentucky gets in the red zone against Louisville, statistically, they are going to have to go through hell to get into that end zone. So when I look at that, and we've seen it before, like you just mentioned, Parker, in the Virginia game, if Kentucky can get big plays going, and they can get big plays after big plays, that is how I think Kentucky can take advantage of the game and get a win and walk out of there with a win, because we've seen it before. Louisville has the ability to give up big plays, big yardage plays that gets teams into scoring position off of 1 or 2 plays. We've seen it all season. I'm sure Caleb can admit it too. Our defense gives up big plays.
Getting Louisville in that position in the first place to even get them shaked, because you see it, we saw it on the Duke game. I'm sorry, the Duke game. Duke just couldn't get anything. They literally couldn't get a full drive really started going. Louisville never really let up those big plays to get a little momentum on Duke's side. I think that at the end of the day, that's what it's gonna. We all, as far as Kentucky's side, that's what we're gonna have to do to really stay in the game, keep it competitive, keep the fans, keep the players into the game.
Yeah. Well, another thing to talk about on that note is I think it will have to be the second or the third quarter that Kentucky takes over, because first quarter, Louisville always comes out strong. I think we've given up 7 points all season in the first quarter. I think we've outscored our opponents almost 100-7 in the first quarter
14,
of games this season.
14. Miami.
Is it 14?
The Miami game and the Pitt game.
Miami and Pitt. Yep, you're right. And then the fourth quarter, we have done very well too. We put away games in the fourth quarter. Our defense is locked down. I think on average we give up like 2 point something, 2.7 or 2.8 points in the fourth quarter on average against everybody we've played this year. But Louisville always drops a quarter. Georgia Tech, we dropped the second quarter. NC State, we dropped the second quarter. Who else did we drop a quarter against? Miami.
Hit
We
the
dropped
whole second half.
Pitt, we dropped the whole second half. It was terrible.
Third quarter
Virginia,
against
we dropped
Virginia.
the third quarter. But every single one of those games, but Pitt, we found a way to win. Good teams find ways to win. So I think if it's a close game, Louisville walks away with it. In order for Kentucky to win, I think it's going to have to be I think UK is going to have to dominate, which honestly, I don't see it happening just because they haven't put it together yet. And I don't think that the last week of the season is when they're going to be able to put it together. So.
And that's something I've told Josh week in and week out on these college episodes. I mean, we do it's very similar to my golf game. I do so good at one thing. Like, I will drop the ball amazing one day, but then I can't chip. The next day I'll be putting on fire and I can't hit a driver more than 50 yards. That is how Kentucky's football season has gone this year. Our run game is really good, but we can't pass the ball. Our defense is locked down, but our offense can't move the ball. Our offense all comes together. We're passing the ball good, we're running the ball good, but our defense is letting up 50 points. You know, we just have not been able to find it all. We've seen it all individually. We've seen if Kentucky put everything together in one game, we would be so good. We have not done that yet.
Yeah, which I'm kind of more on Caleb's side here. I think it's a little too late to do that, but if they do it, then I think it'll be a very close game, like a very close game and an entertaining game nonetheless too. Like, if you guys come into that game and you actually do come meshed everything we've seen in together, then we could have a very competitive game going into the fourth quarter, even the whole game. And it's definitely something that I'm going to be looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the game regardless. I think all three of us are going, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so all three of us are going, so it should be a very fun game. And but unless you guys
have wearing blue.
Am I wearing blue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about wearing blue actually.
I thought so.
So off of that, unless you guys have any other last minute things you guys want to add about the game, we could go ahead and get some predictions going for the rest of the rivalry games, which there's already a few going on right now, but you know, we can get some predictions going, talk about some other games, because there are other games I want to talk about.
Right, yeah. If you want to go ahead and start.
You all good, Caleb?
I was going to give a score prediction if you all want to do
score. We'll get to the Louisville Kentucky game prediction. But so
gotcha.
So yesterday we missed the Ole Miss Mississippi State game. Ole Miss took that one by 10 points. That was I didn't watch it. I don't know if it was good or not, but based off the score,
it was terrible. It was the most boring game ever.
Which by the way,
one of the ugliest games I've ever seen.
But which by the way,
it was 3-0 at halftime.
Oh, sounds amazing. But by the way, something I saw today on Twitter, Will Rogers, the quarterback for Mississippi State, might be putting his name into the transfer portal, and I believe Kentucky is a top landing spot for him based off of what I have seen. So, Parker, if you have any thoughts on that, I'd be interested to hear.
Again, I mean, me personally, I say rock with Devin Leary one more year. I really do. If that means we have another 500 season, it does. That's just what it is. I genuinely think that rocking with Leary, just ride it out, let him have 2 years under us, see what he can do with a full year of the off season, and then let some of our younger guys that we are getting in kind of take over the program. And again, we might see 4 straight years of us being a 500 team. We really might. But
yeah,
when these kids start developing, being juniors, seniors, and we have a very experienced team, that's what I want to see. I want to see these kids. And me personally, I'm not big on the transfer portal. Obviously, it is good in extents and stuff like that, but I like seeing players develop and see a no-name turn into a star. I genuinely do. Josh Allen, Benny Snell, for that you mentioned earlier, Josh. Those are two players that we had that just kind of were fairly quiet until their junior, senior years, and then they just exploded onto the scene. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm sure you guys do too with Louisville. Seeing the kids that you don't know anything about absolutely explode into stars.
I mean, Lamar is a prime example of that.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jair Alexander is a prime example of that.
Right, right.
But,
Yep.
So, the next game, these games are actually going on right now, so we don't have to stay on them very long. But Iowa is currently leading Nebraska in the third quarter, 10-7. Very low scoring game, probably a very boring game because Iowa fucking blows.
So does Nebraska.
Yeah. So
does Nebraska.
That is I'm gonna call that the sleeper bowl because that game is probably going to end with a score of 10-7. The next one is TCU at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's winning 42-16 in the third quarter. Makes sense. TCU isn't the same team they were last year.
For TCU, man.
Yeah, they just they just not the same team. They lost so many people too. Like they lost half their team. But it's very weird because they got so many transfers in and recruits after making it to the national championship last year, and they've just looked disgusting. Like they just have not looked good at all.
Haven't done anything with it.
Yeah. The next one we've got Toledo at Central Michigan. Toledo leads 17-0 in the third quarter. Toledo will probably go on to win that game.
I don't know anything about Toledo.
Yeah.
So
we have one more, at least in my opinion, kind of a sleeper game before we get into the interesting ones. We've got UTSA at Tulane. I think all of us can probably say Tulane will probably win. I believe though UTSA has looked fairly good this season though.
They're 8-3 on the year. Yeah. They're 8-3. That could be a sleeper game.
And you know, now that I think of it, their coach is actually getting heavy consideration for multiple top coaching jobs that are available right now. So he must be pretty good. And I mean, obviously an 8-3 record's not bad either. So, But so the start of the interesting games. We've got Missouri at Arkansas. I think we all probably have a unanimous pick for this game, but
at Arkansas.
Yeah, but at
Arkansas.
Yeah. I just don't think Sam Pittman's that great of a coach. I think he's going to be gone after this year anyways. So I'm in Missouri. We've seen Missouri. They're just so good. I don't think Arkansas has anything for that.
Right.
Well, if Missouri shows up like they did against Florida this week, then Arkansas can make it a game. But I don't see any way that Arkansas wins this one. They can make it a game, but I don't see Missouri dropping this game.
Mm-hmm. Parker?
No, I think me personally, I think it'll be a dog walk for Missouri. It might be close first half, but if I had to guess, it's a 3-score win for Missouri.
Next one, we've got Texas Tech at Texas. I think Texas takes that one.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah. At Texas and
pretty convincingly.
Yeah, 10-1. I think Ewers might be back for this game if he's not back already. And then Texas Tech just,
this is a very similar. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Texas Tech. I feel like we typically look at them like in the Big 12. When we look at Texas Tech, we normally say, hey, they're like pretty good. But this year, not impressive this year.
This is a very similar game to the Louisville, Kentucky game. It's a rivalry. Texas is obviously really, really good. And Texas Tech is kind of in the middle of the pack, barely staying above 500. And that's exactly what we have versus the Louisville, Kentucky game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot more animosity between Louisville and Kentucky fans than Texas and Texas Tech fans. Because Texas's biggest rival is Oklahoma.
You say that. Me and Josh actually just found this out. For college football, to everybody else, Louisville, Kentucky is just not a rivalry at all. Now Kentucky versus Louisville basketball is, but Louisville versus Kentucky football is just like non-existent in the sports world for some reason.
Because for the longest time, Kentucky just wasn't good at football, so there's no history behind that rivalry except between us.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably because in basketball it was more competitive every year than it was in football. Because in football, like when Louisville was first, when when Louisville's football team was first created, obviously we got dog walked for like 10 years straight, and then we started winning a couple, but then Kentucky started winning every single season again, and then Louisville had their streak, which is probably the most recent streak. And then Kentucky's gone on their streak for the past 4 or 5 years, and now we're here. So I think it's just a competitive factor. Like it's always been, or at least for the most part, been super competitive in basketball, whereas in football it just hasn't been that.
One or the other has always dominated. It has never been like one, like Louisville has beat us every single year, because that's never been the case. And then Kentucky has never beat Louisville every single year. We've gone on stretches, like Kentucky's on this stretch of winning. Right before that, it's been Louisville. Louisville had that stretch, and then there was a stretch where it was pretty much back and forth for a few years. And I think you just nailed it right on the head. Where like, regardless who is winning, it just never has been a close game.
Yeah.
Well, people forget that there's a huge break between when the teams played in the rivalry.
Yeah.
The rivalry actually started in 1994, but before that, the teams met up 7 times back before World War I even happened, and Kentucky won all 7 games pretty convincingly, including one that was like 77-0.
Yeah.
Because that was when Louisville was still like a little community college pulling kids off the street to play. But then if you look at the all-time series, it's very misleading in Kentucky's favor because of that. UK was already established as a program. Louisville was, like I said, a community college pulling kids off the street to play that were like 13. But
if you look at the all-time,
this rivalry's gone back and
right up John Skitty's alley.
What? Oh, I was gonna say if you look at the all-time record for the rivalry, if you look at the all-time record, if you take out those first 6 games, it's actually very close, if not even. I'm pretty sure if you take out those games, I'm pretty sure it's even.
You take out those games, Louisville leads by 3.
Okay, so it's still very even though. So yeah, it's a very underrated rivalry for sure.
100%. Each team goes on stretches, like Parker was saying. Louisville did good early 2000s. They were back and forth for like all of the later half of the 90s, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But Louisville did really good under Bobby in the 2000s. After that, Rich Brooks had a couple good wins against Louisville when we had Steve Cragthorpe. Charlie comes in. Charlie drops a game to UK once, I think. Beats them the other 2 years. Bobby comes back. Bobby beats UK a lot. And then UK wins 2016. Louisville wins again 2017. And since then, UK has completely dominated Louisville. Whether it was a mix of Bobby's last year at Louisville when we went 2-10, and then Satterfield never really getting up for that rivalry game. He never really understood it. I mean, there's a picture of Satterfield throwing the L's down at Mark Stoops. He was like, what the hell are you doing? Us Louisville fans, we were like, why the hell would you ever do that? You're just giving them more fuel for the fire. Like, why would you do that? So UK here recently has owned Louisville in football, and there's no excuse for it whatsoever. So that's what I got to say about it.
I will say this, and we keep going off topic to this Louisville Kentucky rivalry. Even if Kentucky somehow does win, nothing will ever. The 2016 Kentucky win was probably one of my favorite all-time wins in Kentucky history. I mean, you got to think Louisville was a powerhouse that year. We were like at fairly average that year, but it's more or less just the way we won it on the field goal. That is, and it was really the start of what Kentucky is now. Like that season, that 2016 season, we had Steven Johnson, who you think like, who the hell is Steven Johnson, right?
Forgot about him.
But to Kentucky fans, like, he's a god. He is a god, because we went from Patrick Toes and Drew Barker to Steven Johnson. Oh my gosh, we had a mobile quarterback that can throw the ball 50 yards downfield. It was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so I think even if somehow Kentucky does pull off this win today, it still won't be as good as the 2016 win. But yeah, that's all I got on that.
As a Louisville fan, I feel like it would hurt a lot more than the loss in 2016, because we got a shot at the playoffs, barring a lot of crazy stuff would have to happen for us to make the playoffs, but it is still
Yeah.
possible. And we've
No, yeah,
got like back then, the week before we played Kentucky in 2016, we played terribly against Houston. We'd already lost to Clemson. We just sold the bag against Houston. We obviously we thought we were going to win, but things didn't work out that way, and we weren't really surprised by it. Which I mean, we were surprised, but like we knew that
and
we could do
also
that because the week before we fell apart.
what made it so sweet is we basically Lamar Jackson we forced Lamar Jackson to have arguably one of his worst games ever in a Louisville jersey that week. I think he ended up having he had like 5 or 6 turnovers that week alone. And so
Yeah,
all
he
just
had 4, I
everything
think.
combined was just very lovely. Very lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. So, the next one we've
Get back
got
to the predictions.
yeah. The next one we've got which by the way, normally they're like in time order, but for some reason they're not in order based off time, so I don't whatever, it's not important. But Penn State at Michigan State.
These games you're calling right now, they're all today. And then everything else tomorrow. That's probably why the times are out of order.
Yeah, you're right. So so later tonight we got Penn State, Michigan State.
I think Penn State walks away with that one.
I do too. Michigan State just isn't that good this year. They haven't been the past couple of years. It's just for Penn State, they have such a case of little brother syndrome. It's not even funny. They want to be with the big guys, but they just aren't nowhere close near the level of Ohio State and Michigan. They want to be. They really do. They genuinely think they have a shot every year, but it's just Penn State's gonna have to settle for third place every year.
Well, especially with that controversy that just happened with their coach, it's like, dude, where is that program at now? Like,
James
it's
Franklin?
just, no, what's his name? I forget his name. James Franklin is Penn State's coach.
I thought you were talking about Penn State's coach.
I'm talking about Michigan State's coach who got fired for yanking his chain over the phone.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So that program's just like in the dumps right now, like much like Northwestern, who actually they only won 1 game last year and they're bowl eligible now. So that's pretty cool.
Big turnaround.
Yeah.
Bobby Petrino to Michigan State.
Man, what? He'll probably leave. He'll probably leave. Where the fuck is he right now? He'll probably leave A&M without leaving a notice.
No, A&M. That's what I meant. A&M, not Florida State. I'm tripping.
The next one is very important for us, Caleb. Barring we beat Kentucky, Oregon State at Oregon.
Yes. I want to say Oregon's going to win this game. I really don't want them to. I really want Oregon State to just dog walk Oregon, but it's not going to happen. Sonny Will Stein, who used to play for Louisville, is Oregon's offensive coordinator now. This offseason, he might get a head coaching job because Oregon's offense has just been moving like a well-oiled machine this year. They have been unstoppable. Nobody's been able to stop Oregon's offense yet.
Stop Washington.
If Oregon State beats Oregon, is Oregon still in the championship?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
wait. I think so. I think they might actually be out. They might actually. Are they?
They already clinched it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which that's another conversation we can have after these predictions is Louisville's path to the playoffs. But for this game alone, I think that being at Oregon, even though there will be a lot of Oregon State fans there, Bo Nix is just incredible because he's 30 years old. I got Oregon on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to say it, but yeah, I think I gotta go Oregon too. I just don't think Oregon State is good enough to go into Eugene and beat Oregon, who ever since their Washington loss has looked better than Washington. So, yeah, I'm going Oregon.
Yeah.
The next one, here we go. Kentucky at Louisville. Which, if you want to actually give the score, then it'd probably be easier for us to do since these are our teams. So yeah, but Caleb, let's start with you.
I'm gonna say Louisville wins it big, 38-14. I don't really think it's going to be close. But if it is going to be close, it's going to be because of the matchup in the trenches and the turnover margin. But I think Louisville wins a close game. I think Louisville wins in a blowout. So either way, I'm picking Louisville.
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I'm unfortunately gonna go Kentucky here. No, I think Louisville's gonna take it. I think it's actually gonna be a closer game than a lot of people think. I think we'll probably take it. Maybe I see that's the thing. You don't know what defense is gonna come with Kentucky. You don't know if it's gonna be I'm trying to think. A Florida defense performance. You don't know if you're going to get that defense or if you're going to get
even South Carolina.
Yeah, even South Carolina defense. You don't know if you're going to get a defense from that game or if you're going to get a defense from Tennessee. So I'm going to go with the score of, I'm going to say 31 to Actually, let me flip it. Let's go 28 to 21. That's what I'll say.
Wow, it's only one score.
Yeah. I think it'll be a one-score game, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. I don't necessarily think it'll be a blowout, just because of the rivalry. I think both teams are going to come into it with like a mindset, and I think Kentucky is also going to come into that game with a certain mindset, and I think they'll just play a little bit harder. So I don't personally see a blowout, but obviously, I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm going to take Louisville 28-21.
Stoops always has the guys ready for this game.
Yeah.
So
I am actually going to take Louisville as well. I just don't think that it is Kentucky's year this year. Just one team's better than the other. That's really just what it comes down to. You just got to tip your hat off to the other team. The other team is just a better football team this year. As far as the score goes, I am going to say 34-21 is going to be my 30. No, I'll say, yeah, no, I'll keep it there. I'll keep it at 34-21. If not, then 34-24.
I think which I guess, I don't know if this helps anybody's argument or I guess it helps mine, I guess, but the spread is only 7. Yeah. So Vegas must think something.
I think it's 7.5 now, actually.
They're just trying to take everybody's money. That's all they're trying to do.
Yeah. Let's see here. All right, so next game we got here, probably game of the week, let's be honest. Ohio State at Michigan.
Probably? Is that what did you say probably?
It is. It is the game of the week. Yeah. But yeah,
and
Ohio State.
It is very unfortunate that they play at 12 p.m. the same time as the kickoff to Louisville and Kentucky, because that is a game that I most definitely want to watch. I am going to take Michigan, and it's not because they're play calling and stuff like that. And I think it's a mix of a couple of things. Michigan's defense and being at Michigan. You want to talk about most hated fan bases? It is Michigan, Ohio State. Like, that is the top of the top. That is equivalent to Duke and North Carolina in basketball, right? They absolutely hate each other. The players hate each other. The coaches hate each other. Everything about Ohio State and Michigan is just absolute hatred. Mm-hmm. That place is going to be rocking. You best believe it. That's a game. I would pay $1 million to go to that game. That is something that I would. You know how much fun that would be. How loud it's going to be there. I am taking.
Is it in the Big House this week?
It is. Yes. I think Michigan takes it by 2 scores or more.
Yeah.
Caleb?
I think that as a Louisville fan, I need Michigan to win this game because Ohio State has to lose in order for us to make the playoffs.
But doesn't Michigan have to lose either? Either one of them?
No, I'd rather have Ohio State lose than Michigan lose.
What's your reasoning?
Because I feel like we have a better chance beating Michigan than Ohio State. Because Michigan is without their coach.
Are you saying if you guys did make the playoffs?
Yeah, if we did make the playoffs.
Okay.
If we beat FSU, Alabama wins out, and Ohio State and Oregon loses, that would be very chaotic, which is very unlikely to happen. Probably like a 1% chance for us to make the playoffs. But if it did, I'd rather have Michigan than Ohio State. Although Michigan's looked really good this year, they've also been playing a bunch of nobodies. And when they do play somebody, like they played Maryland the other day, who started off hot, they struggled. They struggled against Maryland big time. And they're without their coach now. So I really want Michigan to win this game. But
he's back.
He's not coaching. He's coaching practices.
No,
he can't coach
he had a 3-game suspension. I'm pretty sure it's over for this game. I think.
I thought it was I thought it was the whole regular
for the rest
season.
of the season.
Okay, yeah. So okay, never mind.
Like he's coming back for the playoffs.
Yeah, he'll be back for the playoffs. It was only a 3-game suspension.
I thought it was just a regular season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, but, so he'll be back come playoff time.
I really want Michigan to win the game, but I'm gonna have to go with Ohio State. They got more to play for. They haven't won the last 2. I think before Michigan's won the last 2, they've dominated. They've won the last 8 leading up to it. If Ryan Day doesn't win this game, he is on the hottest hot seat in college football, just because Ohio State will not stand for losing to Michigan.
Valid.
This is a very hard one because they're both very good teams, but I'm gonna give the edge to Ohio State, I think, and I'm gonna take Ohio State because this is an Ohio State defense that we haven't seen from Ohio State. When we look at Ohio State from the past years, it's been all about their offense and how good their offense is. Mm-hmm. But when you look at this Ohio State team this year, you talk about their offense, sure, because they still have Marvin Harrison, they still have Egbuka, but their defense is like one of the key points of this team this year. And if they can stop a Michigan offense who, quite frankly, like Caleb said, has been struggling the past couple of weeks to even get down the field against teams like Maryland, and I know they winded up beating Maryland by a decent margin, but in the first half of multiple games this year against these nobodies, they have been struggling to start the game off hot. And like Caleb said, with no Harbaugh in this game, that could be a huge problem. And Ohio State, I believe, is just a better team overall as far as offense and defense goes. I know Michigan's defense is elite as well. However, I think they find a way to get Marvin Harrison Jr., Egbuka, and I feel like they just find a way to get them going, and I feel like they take it this year.
A guy like Marvin Harrison, you don't stop him. You just try to slow him down.
Yeah. Yeah,
We even talked about this on the NFL episode, Josh. Like, I mean, he is a generational talent. He is one of the best to ever do it in college. Mm-hmm. And you just hope that you can stop him from scoring touchdowns. Is at the end of the day, that's what you hope that he can do. That way you can prevent.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about how good he is, he's really not even having that elite of a season, and people are still putting him in the top 4 people that should be going to New York. So, I mean, he's just incredible, an incredible player, and he can take over any game he wants. So, yeah, I'm going Ohio State. So I think that's 1 Michigan, 2 Ohio States, or did you take Ohio State too, Parker?
I took Michigan. I'm going Michigan.
Okay. So 2 Ohio States, 1 Michigan. I'm excited. I hate that it's at the same time as our game because I definitely just want to be sitting there looking at it on ESPN for sure.
All right. Yeah.
But
they'll have the score at the stadium on the ribbon boards.
That's true.
We'll be able
that's
to see
true.
it.
Yeah, that's true. I would like actually want to watch the game though because I just feel like it'll be such a fun game to watch. Plus, if they get in a brawl, I want to see it. Let's see. Next one, we've got Texas A&M at LSU.
LSU wins this by a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking LSU too. I mean, LSU has the Heisman winner on their team, so I don't think.
No,
Yes,
Josh.
they do. Yes, they do.
It's not.
Jaden Daniels is the Heisman winner, and if he's not the Heisman winner, it's fucking rigged. Just because their record is what it is does not mean that he shouldn't get Heisman.
Yeah.
He is the best quarterback in the nation, and nobody can tell me anything. He leads the.
Jaden Daniels deserves it.
He is. He leads the nation in passing yards. He leads the nation in rushing yards for quarterbacks. He's up there in the nation for rushing yards, period. like running back and quarterback. He's an outstanding player. Touchdowns, I'm pretty sure he's up there in the nation. He's outperforming everybody. And just because LSU has 3-4 losses, he's not going to win it. I don't think he'll win it. He won't win it, but he should win it. He is the Heisman in my eyes. But just because they have 3-4 losses, he won't win it. But it's stupid because I feel like Lamar Jackson is probably the last Heisman winner that we'll be able to look at and say their team might not have done that great, but he was that great. And
well, I mean, this goes back to that conversation we had about C.J. Stroud winning MVP. You look at Shohei Ohtani for the Angels, and everybody said that he's going to win MVP. The Angels sucked. Like, they were not good. They're not a good baseball team. But his numbers were so incredibly good that he's going to win it regardless. Because when someone puts up that good of numbers, they're going to win it. So I think that I still don't think Jaden Daniels is going to win it. I think it's going to be Michael Penix. I think he just overall, maybe not statistically, but just overall, he has had a better season than Jaden Daniels. That he is going to take it home simply, but it could, and it really could be just from the fact that LSU has how many ever losses it does. But if he has the numbers and they really 3 losses, if he really does have the numbers, and I don't think the record's going to have to do anything with it, and the season overall, what they do, I don't think it's going to have anything to do with it. I think it's going to be a fair and square, just who overall has had the better season, and I think it has been Michael Penix for Washington.
Well, I feel like for the Heisman Trophy and the NFL MVP, it's kind of turned into the best player on one of the best teams. Like after the Eagles win, Jalen Hurts he has the highest odds to win the NFL MVP now, which is ridiculous. I mean, dude threw for like 160 yards and he threw an interception. Didn't even throw a touchdown. Had a terrible QBR, but some reason he's the front runner for NFL MVP. When you got guys like C.J. Stroud doing as good as they're doing, or even what's his face? Jordan Love's doing good. He's got better numbers than Jalen Hurts does, but he plays for the Packers. He's not on as good of a team, so nobody's talking about that. But he's got way better numbers than Jalen Hurts does. It's a popularity contest.
And I hate to say it, no, I don't hate to say it. This is how it should be. MVP should be what it stands for: most valuable. Who is most valuable to their player or to their team? The Heisman should be who is the best player. It has nothing to do with how good your season is, how good your team is. If there is somebody for some small school that has 2 wins on the year, if he is putting up unbelievable numbers, then he should still get it, because it doesn't matter how good your team has done or how many games you've won or lost. And like Caleb Williams, who kind of everybody stopped talking about him being a Heisman. At the beginning of the season, he was kind of the runaway candidate to win Heisman, was Caleb Williams. But because how bad that USC defense has been, everybody really stopped talking about him, and that's not how it should be for a Heisman race. MVP, I understand.
Also started playing bad too. Caleb Williams wasn't doing very good too.
Yeah.
But
so
that point exactly is why Jaden Daniels would win it, in my opinion.
Yeah. So to your point, Parker, if the Heisman is the best player in the nation, let me just read out his stats to you. Mm-hmm. He's 3rd in passing yards in the nation. He is behind Michael Penix, but he has thrown 6 more touchdowns and 3 less interceptions. I mean, and he's not far behind on the passing yards, by the way. He's only I'm terrible at math, but I'm terrible at math, but he's less than 100 below him. So he has a better completion percentage. He's just the better player, and he has great rushing stats too to back it up. I can't find it. I mean, obviously there's plenty of running backs that are way ahead of him on the rushing list, so I can't really find him here immediately, but he has great rushing stats too. But
yes, Jaden Daniels has the statistical stats. He has the, just straight up, if you just look up the 2 players, you're gonna be like, oh, Jaden Daniels has had a better season.
Oh, here it is. He's rushed for 1,014 yards this season.
How many has Michael Penix rushed for?
Damn.
He's not that
let me,
mobile, but
yeah,
I'm just
let me,
curious.
uh,
And then also tell me if you can really quick, tell me what the different completion percentages and QBR is.
okay. Michael Penix is
I
at,
genuinely do not know. I just want to know.
Michael Penix is at -5 yards on the season for rushing.
Oh, well, that's counting sacks and all that stuff.
True.
Yeah,
Well,
that's not,
does it? Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Does it?
It had to. There's no way on the year he is -5.
Yeah. I guess it must because he has 23 carries for -5 yards. So I guess it does count sacks. But let's see. And then you wanted what?
Completion percentage for both quarterbacks and also QBR.
Okay. So Penix's completion percentage for this year, right? I assume we're talking about. Yeah. So this year it's 66.5 for Penix with a rating of 166.8, and then for Jaden, it is 72.6 completion percentage with 208.3 rating.
Okay. I genuinely did not know what the difference was. I was just curious what it was.
Yeah.
But to my point, Jaden Daniels has better stats. But when you are just looking at the entire position being played, decision making, the pocket presence, all that good stuff, everything involved, I genuinely think it has been Michael Penix who has had the overall best season out of any quarterback.
Fair enough.
Well, he's a better leader, but the Heisman shouldn't go to the best leader. It should go to the best player.
Yeah, because in that case, Baker Mayfield should not have won it if it did go to the best leader.
No.
I still think Lamar should have won it again in 2017. I really do.
He had better stats than in 2016, rushing and passing.
That's a great example.
Lamar had better numbers than he did the year before.
Look, that's a great example. What was that? 2016?
17. He won in 2016. Had better
What?
stats in 17 and lost.
I bet you did he have better stats than Mayfield?
Yeah. He had better stats.
That's a great example. I mean, Jaden McDaniels.
But it's because Mayfield's team did better.
And that's probably honestly what it's going to come down to again.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is stupid. It should go to the best player, not the best player on the best team. It's stupid.
Which I think obviously
Daniels should have won it this year, just like Lamar should have in 2017.
When Lamar won it, I think obviously he deserved it. But I think before that, like when it really went to the best player in college football, I think the last person to do that was probably Charles Woodson.
A long time ago.
Yeah, it's a long-ass time ago, but he was genuinely the best player. Like, they gave it to him over Peyton Manning, Randy Moss. Like, he won it over some very great players, and I mean, he was the best player. So I just
So, what is your all's take on the fact that? And I know that it's more than just the quarterback play is what wins you games, but Michael Penix has stepped up in big moments to win the biggest games of the year, each and every game. Jaden Daniels has not. Do you think that plays a role? Because I know, like, overall, the final score is a team effort. The final score is a result of a team effort. But just the fact that Michael Penix has found a way to win. He has found a way to score enough points to have more points than the other team. Do you think that means anything?
I think
in the Heisman race?
I think it definitely for sure plays a role. I mean, like you said, I think that's why Penix is going to win it. But at the same time, I think if you put Daniels on Washington this year, I think Washington would probably be better, if not the same at the very least. I just think Washington is a better team. I don't think Jaden Daniels has the support of his defense like Penix does. Washington's defense is probably a little bit better than LSU's, even though Washington's defense isn't that great either. It's probably just better than LSU's because, I mean, all three of us know LSU's defense isn't worth a shit. So I just think it's the lack of support around the individuals, and I think Michael Penix has the edge there, which obviously to your point, Parker, he has done amazing with his supporting cast. He's done great things with the people around him. But I think if you're going to look at it that way, then you got to look at it and say, if Jaden Daniels was in his shoes with a better team than he has right now, would he do the same? And I would say, yeah, he'd probably do the same, if not better.
Do you think Penix, if he was on LSU this year, would it be the same?
To be honest, no,
be
because I think because if you look at it, if you look at the stats, I mean, Jaden Daniels has had to do a lot of running. He just has, because that O-line, he's not getting protection the way he should be, and he's doing great things with his legs. He's turning nothing. He's turning chicken shit into chicken salad when he has to run the ball. And Penix, we haven't had to see him run the ball, which that's, very good on Washington's O-line. He hasn't had to run the ball because he can sit in the pocket all day and wait for his receivers to get open. So, no, I don't. I think Penix is probably a good quarterback if he's on LSU's team, but I don't think he puts up Jaden Daniels' numbers that Jaden Daniels is doing right now.
But at the same time,
he doesn't will them to win like Jaden Daniels does either, because Jaden Daniels is LSU's offense.
At the same time, LSU has better receivers than Washington. Michael Penix, some would say he's a better passer than Jaden Daniels. So that could also mean something. Now, obviously, his legs isn't there, but he might have a better arm and have better receivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that, because Neighbors and what's the other one's name? I know he's a junior, but
that's not really going to matter when you're getting waffle stomped by the defensive line every snap, though. Because the reason LSU's been able to kind of get away is because Jaden Daniels is so sneaky. He can get out of those pockets. Michael Penix he's not
Brian
slow,
Thomas.
but he's not slow, but he's not Jaden Daniels. So he might be able to hit those receivers better, because LSU does have better receivers than Washington does, but he won't have time to hit those receivers like he does at Washington. And Jaden Daniels makes up for that not having time by being agile and using his feet. 1,000 yards rushing as a quarterback is absolutely insane. I don't care how many times somebody did it. I think Lamar had 2 1,500-yard seasons as a quarterback. But it's statistically, it is like insane as a quarterback to have 1,000 yards rushing when most running backs don't even have 1,000 yards rushing.
No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if we really want to look at it, I mean, last game he had 413 passing yards, 96 rushing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Jaden Daniels did. The game before that, he had, I got to pull it up because my computer wants to be stupid. The game before that, he had 372 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 234 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. I guess my final point is, you can't look at those stats and you can't look at him play and be like, this guy is the best player in the country, compared to a guy who, again, this isn't anything against Michael Penix, but compared to a guy who has all the time in the world to pass the ball, doesn't have to scramble, doesn't have to do anything to really put any extra work into getting the ball to his receivers, I think that is where it differs for me, because I'm seeing the different capabilities of Jaden Daniels, whereas over here with Penix, I'm only seeing his elite passing side, whereas over here I'm seeing his elite passing and elite rushing. Except
Michael Penix wins ball games.
Yeah, Michael Penix has a better win-loss.
And it does. It's more than just him. It is a full team effort, but he puts up enough points and puts up more points than the other team week in and week out.
Yeah.
That Jaden Daniels does not.
At the end of the day, the win-loss column is the most important statistic for any player.
Yeah.
So no matter which way you want to come at it, that is the most important. That's the only thing that really matters. So
I think we'll just find out here. I hope it's something crazy. I hope Jalen Milroe makes a comeback. He wins it. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing that.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
that was a long conversation about Heisman, but I guess
It was.
yeah, it was a very much needed one. But let's see. Do you guys still want to go over all of these, or should I just kind of pick and choose the best ones?
No, I think we.
I would just pick and choose. Oh yeah, yeah. Whatever.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. So we can speed it up a little bit if we want to.
For a week.
Alabama at Auburn, the Iron Bowl, baby. Alabama.
Bama.
Alabama. Liberty at UTEP.
Liberty Biberty.
Liberty Bibbity.
I'm going with Liberty as well.
Let's
Undefeated
see.
Liberty.
I have a very hard time believing this is actually a rivalry, but Vanderbilt at Tennessee.
They're both Tennessee teams.
It is.
Oh,
they're,
okay.
they're both in. They're both in Nashville.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
What a one-sided rivalry.
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna go
all
with Vandy
time
on this
too.
one, actually.
Oh.
I'm gonna pick Vandy, just for the chaos of it.
I'm not stupid, so I'm gonna go Tennessee.
I'm going Tennessee.
Let's see. This one, this one could actually be interesting, even though their seasons have gone two completely different ways. But Arizona at Arizona State.
You know, Arizona has been one of the hottest teams in football for some time now, and I know Josh, you love yourself some Arizona. I think that Arizona continues to win this. I just think that again, it's another issue of just the talent difference. I think Arizona is just a much more talented team.
Yeah, I'm going Arizona for sure here too. I just after going those 2-3 weeks without betting on them and losing, it upset me. So I'm going Arizona, and they haven't let me down yet. So
Ooh.
who you going with, Caleb?
Arizona's 9-3 this year. You know, ESPN FPI gives Arizona State a 15.7% chance to win this game. I don't know much about Arizona State, but I've been keeping a close eye on Arizona. I think they just cracked the top 15, didn't they? I think they did.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Arizona in this one by a big margin. I'm gonna have to say.
All righty.
Wildcats.
Which Arizona?
Say that. Don't clip that.
Oh, we're clipping it, baby. Which Arizona, by the way, is on a 5-game win streak, and it's wins over Washington State, Oregon State, UCLA, Colorado, and Utah. And 4 out of the 5 of those teams were ranked very highly at one point.
Good teams.
Yeah, one of them still being ranked, which is Oregon State. So they look very impressive this year. Yeah, so Arizona, in my opinion, should be able to just walk away with it. BYU at Oklahoma State.
Now, is this a rivalry?
It must be. I'd assume so.
I don't know too much about BYU this year. I do know that Oklahoma State at times can have a really, really, really good offense. So I'm going to go ahead and take them.
Yeah, I'm going to go Oklahoma State as well, considering that they have a very real chance to make the Pac-12 championship. Or, no, they don't. Not anymore. But,
You mean Big 12?
yeah, but yeah, they have a very real chance to make the Big 12 championship if they win this game and, you know, some other circumstances happen. But, yeah, Oklahoma State looked very good at the later half of the season.
At times, you know, they
Oklahoma
struggled.
State.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oklahoma State's looked a lot better. BYU is off. They're coming off a 4-game losing streak, and they've lost 5 of their last 6 of their last 8. So they do not look good. But they are 5-6. They've got something to play for. They will be playing for bowl eligibility, so it'll be interesting here. But I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma State.
All right. The next one here, relatively interesting, but also not that important. James Madison, who's coming off their first loss of the season, at Coastal Carolina.
Man, James Madison, dude. I mean, they had the whole world talking for them and rooting for them, and it's still messed up. I mean, the team has 10 wins. They should most definitely be in a bowl game this year, and it's really messed up that they aren't gonna make it. But they just had the whole world on James Madison's sides, and at the peak of that, at the peak of everybody being on James Madison's side, they go and lose. And then now, really, I don't know
Yeah,
anything about Coastal Carolina, but
to
I
App
do
State
see
of
that
all
they are
teams.
right. Yeah, App State is just known for upsets. Um, I don't know anything about Coastal Carolina, but I do know they are 7-4, and it's at Coastal Carolina. This could most definitely be a back-to-back losses for James Madison, and I think that just their momentum, their hot streak, everything has come to an end. I am taking Coastal Carolina.
I'm gonna take James Madison just because I think they're actually like really good. Like they have very good players on that team. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
But they didn't play nobody.
they're just very true. But from what I've seen from watching them, they have players that are just like genuinely good. Like as in like if they transferred, they'd probably get offers from the top schools in the SEC, ACC, Big Ten. So. Yeah, I'm going James Madison. Plus, I feel like they're coming. I feel like they're going to come into this game a little pissed off because, they know they can't make a bowl game. Like they know they're not going to be able to do anything after this game. This is their last game of the season, and they're pissed because they just lost their first game of the season. So I think they're going to come into this one angry and like they have a point to prove.
With that, though, they literally had game day. They had game day there. It was the first game after NCAA said that they aren't making a bowl game. They will not. It was their first game. Like, you want to talk about max pissed off and just the most hype they could have ever gotten. It was last week. It was 100% last week, and they lost. That makes me skeptical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, regardless of what happened last week, James Madison is no doubt the best Group of 5 team in the nation.
Oh yeah.
I expect them to handle business.
Yes.
They've won most of their games this year by a big margin. So I expect them to handle business.
Alrighty. The next one, also a fairly important one for us, Caleb. Washington State at Washington.
Caleb, I'll let you take this one first.
I really want Washington State to win, but it's not going to happen. Penix he's too good. He's a great game manager. He always finds a way to win. Washington's going to win this one, and I don't think it's going to be relatively close either. So,
I agree with you. It would be a really crazy story for Washington State to win this. Washington State was on top of the world, then fell off a cliff, and if they could somehow beat Washington for their first loss of the season at Washington, that would be pretty insane. But like you said, I think that just Penix and just that offense alone is just so incredibly good, and Washington just really has yet to get their feet back under them for going on almost 2 months at this point. I think Washington won this pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I agree. I think Washington's going to take this one. I just don't think Washington State has what it takes in them to beat Washington at Washington, because that Washington crowd is going to be popping. Like it's going to be loud. So I'm going to go Washington. The next one, I guess technically also a fairly important one for us, considering for some reason they dropped out of the top 4. Florida State at Florida.
State. I think Florida State's going to win this one by a lot. Florida is not good this year. They showed a little bit that they would be all right, like in flashes earlier this year. But it was like as soon as I saw them play week 1 against Utah, I knew that they weren't going to do shit the whole season unless they figured some really difficult things out because they were just off. And you could chalk that up to first game nerves, but then they came out and they got dominated by a Kentucky team who's been average at best this year. Florida, and it's going to be, it's in the swamp, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I still think Florida State walks away with that one. Their quarterback, I forget their quarterback's name, their backup that came in for Jordan Travis, but he actually helped lead Florida State to a win against Louisville last year at Louisville. So he's done it before, and he's going to do it again this week.
This is off topic, but real quick, because earlier, I think, Caleb, you said Oregon clinched their spot in the championship already. They actually didn't.
Yeah.
So if Oregon loses, I'm pretty sure they're actually out of the Pac-12 championship. And whoever's next jump ins and takes their spot. I don't know who it is.
I thought they'd already clinched it.
Washington clinched it after beating Oregon State last week.
So, honestly...
And then at the same time, the winner of Michigan-Ohio State clinches their spot in the Big Ten championship. Because neither of them have clinched that spot either.
Yep.
To be honest, there is a world where you guys want Oregon to win. You don't want Oregon to lose. Because if Oregon loses, that means they don't play in the championship game, which that means they don't play Washington.
No, I want Oregon to lose because if they lose, they're out of the playoffs altogether.
Not necessarily.
I want Washington to lose this week too. Yeah, if Oregon loses, they're out of the playoffs.
Realistically, if we need, in order for everything to work, we would need every team ahead of us to lose this week.
No.
Because next week, not every team, but if like next week during conference championship play, the only team that would lose and that would actually help us is probably if Alabama loses to Georgia.
That, and then if Oregon loses to Washington in the championship game. Because if they lose today, that means they don't play in the championship game, right?
I'm honestly not 100% sure. I have to look up the Big 12
honestly,
Pac-12.
like you want Oregon to play Washington again. Because regardless, only one Pac-12 team's getting in, more than likely.
So if Oregon loses today, then I believe Arizona gets in. Because if Oregon loses today, they become if Oregon loses today, they become 7-2 in the conference. If Arizona wins today against Arizona State, they become 7-2 in the conference. And then
beating Oregon State.
Yeah, and Arizona's beaten Oregon State, and if Oregon loses today to Oregon State, then the tiebreaker would be common opponents because they don't play each other, Arizona and Oregon, and because Arizona has beaten Oregon State, they'd get in over Oregon. So we would need Oregon to win today, yeah.
Yeah, you want Oregon in the championship game.
Yeah.
For the Florida State-Florida game, on my side, I think that I am curious. This could be a really good game. This could be a upset game, honestly. We don't know what the backup really is going to look like. I know you said that he had a big win against Louisville last year, but this is his first game from start to finish as a starter. Who knows what he looks like? He could come out and look like trash. Me personally, I do think Florida State is going to win this game. Even in the swamp, I just don't think the crowd. I don't think Florida really. I think they're just giving up on the season. They don't care. Honestly, I don't think the crowd's going to be that much of a factor.
Well, another aspect of this game is last week when Florida's quarterback got hurt, Graham Mertz against Missouri, their backup came in and he played great. So they might actually not start Graham Mertz. They might actually start the backup, whose name I can't remember for the life of me. But he's a really good dual threat quarterback. He was doing good last week against Missouri. Granted, their defense isn't as good as Florida State's, but he almost willed them to a win.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm going Florida State. I just don't think Florida has anything to stop those two guys out on the outside. I don't think it matters who they put at QB against Florida. I mean, obviously they only have one option, but if Jordan Travis wasn't hurt is what I'm saying, like whether it's Jordan Travis or the backup, I don't think it matters because I just don't think Florida has anything on Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. I don't think they have anything to stop them. Yeah. So, and even Benson for that matter, because Benson's a hell of a running back. So I just think Florida State's too powerful for Florida, who, as we know, isn't that great this year.
Yeah. Florida State's not like LSU where it's just Jaden Daniels and a bunch of dudes. Like it wasn't Jordan Travis and a bunch of dudes. They've got a ton of weapons.
Right.
So
yeah,
they're a very complete team.
Right.
Let's see. Next one, we have Louisville's favorite quarterback of all time, Sam Hartman, in Notre Dame at Stanford.
Did you guys see Wake Forest throwing shots at Notre Dame?
Yeah, they're Wake Forest's coach. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, you can't
Dave
love
Clawson.
him.
Yeah.
He's just a rental.
Dave Clawson's he's such a pussy, dude. I hate Dave Clawson. He's such a whiny little bitch.
I'm guessing
there's some strong feelings from Louisville fans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going Notre Dame. I don't.
I'm going Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't think Stanford has a shot.
Wait, who are they playing again? I started thinking about Dave Clawson, and all I saw was red.
Notre Dame at Stanford. Yeah.
Ooh, Notre Dame.
Alrighty, let's see here. 2 more. Georgia at Georgia Tech.
Georgia. There's not much to say about it.
Yeah,
Georgia.
I saw a tweet Georgia Tech, Barstool GT put out talking about they're showing the spread. I think it's 24.5. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And they're talking about we love being the underdog. We're used to this, and I was like, I just started laughing. I was like, you're not beating Georgia, dude.
Yeah, we said the same thing. Kentucky said the same damn thing.
Georgia's gonna cover. Georgia might cover by 30.
Every team in the past 2 years has said that they love being the underdog when playing Georgia. They have yet to get the job done.
World.
Every team has said it.
And then they regret it right after.
Yeah.
And then the whistle blows, and they're like, "Oh fuck!"
Especially like now, like because Georgia's like finally looking like the guys like that they've been for the past 2 years. Like, because at the beginning of the season, when you looked at Georgia, you were like, "Oh wait, I actually don't know if they're that good," because all they were playing was nobodies. But then now at the end of their season, now that they're playing like not the best competition, but some competition, and they're still just dog walking everybody, it's like now everyone's like, oh fuck, like they're still like the best team in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
The next one we've got this is the last one. We've got Iowa State at Kansas State.
Kansas State, because Iowa State sucks.
Yeah, I'm going Kansas State.
I don't know anything about either team this year, Iowa State or Kansas State. I haven't been following either of them.
Kansas State's been a little up and down.
Yeah,
they've struggled at points, but Iowa State is extremely bad.
Yeah, I feel like I say it every episode, but I despise Iowa football. Like Iowa State, it doesn't matter. They're both just boring ass teams. Like I can't stand watching them.
Boring ass states too.
Yeah, just a nothing. I'm sorry if you're from Iowa, your state's just a nothing.
So it's just
damn.
They're just going to be having a mid off this weekend, I guess.
Yeah, it's like
pretty much. But I don't know. Kansas State is ranked, so like I wouldn't necessarily call them mid, but they're not like great by any means. But yeah, I'm going Kansas State.
Yeah, and then for everybody listening, next episode, I will make sure I have all the totals from me versus Josh all year for every time we've done predictions. I will have everything as the season wraps up. And then also, this is obviously the first time we've had a guest do predictions. We'll see what he does, and any guest that we have in the future, it's going to go towards the total. So, Caleb, you are actually starting it off. You're either going to start at all the guests off with a winning or losing record, or maybe 500.
Oh yeah.
So everybody's going to be they're going to be pointing fingers at you if you struggle here.
Hey, all I know is Vanderbilt is beating Tennessee. It's happening.
At the beginning. At the beginning of the season, that's what I did. I was taking the underdogs. And it
worked.
It worked. Yeah. I had a giant lead on Josh in the all-time series. I had him by like 5 games or something like that. That slowly faded. I got a little too willy nilly with my picks, and
I had a
was
very
picking
good week a
teams-
few weeks ago.
I was picking teams to like beat Alabama and stuff like that. That
Oh,
just wasn't
shit.
just stupid. It was stupid.
To be fair, though, in your defense, it was back when Alabama was like kind of questionable.
They didn't have a quarterback.
Yeah. All right, well, gentlemen, unless you all have anything else left to say, do you guys have anything else?
I just want to say go Cards. Whip that ass tomorrow.
Yeah, just a little bit longer of an episode here than our normal one. I will try to get this up. We will take his whistle just in general. We'll try to get it up here. Hopefully before the games start. So just be on the lookout for it. And yeah, sorry for the long bit of an episode, but we had a lot to go over.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys for listening. I've been Josh, that has been Parker, and this has been Caleb. Caleb, thank you for coming on here with us, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you all
First
so much
ever
for having
guest
me
in
on.
history.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to it, and I really appreciate it. And I had a
We'd
good
love to
time.
have you
Hopefully
back
I'll
here
have you back
sometime.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys in the next one.